Hi, this is Peter Godinez with KADY TV, your ambassador with another segment of Good Morning Oxnard. In that sub-segment, our time with George Miller of the Citizens US. I also want to do a shout out to one of our sponsors, Umpqua Bank, Stacy Peterson. So come on by, say hello, and have some Umpqua coffee. I also want to mention just a lot of the sports that we're doing. George, we are actually doing the wrestling, we're doing the female volleyball, we're doing, what were some other ones I'm missing? Baseball.
Baseball, basketball.
I mean, that's going to be a popular thing, so I want to do a shout out with that. So to get on with the core we're doing, George Miller has some really exciting things that he would like to share with you, and hopefully that you'll pay attention.
Good morning, Oxnard. I'm George Miller with citizensjournal.us on the web. You can find us on Facebook, Citizens Journal of Ventura County. This is a special segment today. We want to talk about some financial affairs in Oxnard. There's a very important meeting coming up. A couple of citizens worked with City Manager Greg Nyhoff to organize a special community forum. It's going to have two major topics. That forum, will, by the way, will be on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center, appropriately enough, in the Oxnard room. But the two different topics, the first one will be on establishing community trust. Now what does that mean? That means the residents have more confidence in their government to deliver services. And in particular, the relationship with the police department will be discussed in terms of getting the citizens to work with the police department to proactively address potential crime and deal with that, hopefully before it happens or after it happens, to track down who did it and who did why. Because of the nationwide fervor over things like Ferguson and all that, people are hypersensitive to any kind of police appropriate actions too, and certain things like the Limon killing and things like that have caused people to shake their confidence a little bit, so that will be addressed as well. Things like the police cameras will be addressed. For example, last night at the City Council meeting, the Council approved applying for a $700,000 grant from the federal government to finance the initial batch of police cameras being used in the city. Right? So anyhow, that meeting will be the community forum, and it will have several different sections. First of all, there'll be a session to talk about the trust issues and solicit public input, and also speakers from the police department. Both Chief Williams from the fire department and the other Chief Williams from the police department will be on hand to answer questions and address what's brought up. And then they're going to talk about community priorities. Now, the purpose of this thing was to try to determine what the priorities are, to determine how the budget money will be spent. You know, the city spent about $360 million last year. Over $100 million of that was for what's called general services. And general services include things like the police department and the fire department, which are the bulk of the city general fund expenditures. So community members will be asked to identify specific priorities of things that they want done. And they're going to use kind of a unique way to track votes on that. They're going to issue people little dots to put up on charts with the different topics to see what the concentration is, what the most people want, and use that to help drive their priorities. In preparation for that, the city has already gone through with their staff and developed over 80 pages of input, almost 200 items that they thought should be priorities, and then they winnowed down those things and grouped them together and presented them at the City Council meeting, not last night, but the week before that. And that's available on citizensjournal.us and the article on the City Council meeting for last week. So I think anyone's really serious ought to read that before they even walk into the meeting to have a better idea of what the starting point is, so we don't have to start from scratch.
How many dots will each person have?
You know, you asked that question last week, and I still don't know the answer.
Well, let's make it down. Somewhere between 3 and 100.
I think that they have something like the cap and trade where you can buy and sell dots. I'm going to see if I can get extra dots for people who aren't really that committed to determining priorities.
No,
do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Bitcoins?
Right, it's analogous. Now, also there, the city has also opened up different community organizations to show their wares at the forum. As of last week, there are already 25 different community organizations signed up, including KADY TV. So you'll see different organizations that have a stake in the city presenting their wares and answering questions and giving out literature at the forum also.
That's exciting.
Right. Now they've reserved a very big room. I hope we can fill that room. It's one of the reasons we're having this session today.
That's right. Let's fill it.
First time they've ever tried this. one really notable thing about this event is it's really a grassroots operation organized by citizens, not the city. Peggy Rivera and Gene Jonason actually came to Greg Nyhoff, the city manager, proposed this whole thing, worked on the development, and ran it. And the city pitched in and supported them and carried water for them to make this thing happen.
That's great.
And I think that's a wonderful example of citizen and city involvement together, right? So I hope that as many of you as possible will attend this very important meeting on Thursday, 5:30 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center on 800 Hobson Way in the Oxnard Room, and also ask all your local friends, relatives, associates to come as well. If you want to have a voice in the city's future and setting priorities and making yourself heard, this is the forum to do that. Last night, along that line, Councilman Bert Perillo was a very activist councilman, by the way. Probably the most thorough guy I've ever seen in terms of reading things and holding people accountable. Released a blistering letter attacking the city's financial condition. Right? And basically, without going through all the details, it was about the sorry state of Oxnard finance. The new management that Greg Nyhoff has put in place, David Milliken, the interim financial director, and others have determined that we will probably have at least a $3 million deficit, possibly as high as $9 million this year. And a lot of that's from past sins, deficits accumulated on the golf course, on the Performing Arts Center, related to some of the downtown projects and things like that. But the bottom line is, Oxnard as a city has a fairly low per capita income, yet it has needs like any big city, and it's expanded very rapidly, so the infrastructure costs are higher than most cities. And because of just the setup of how the city is, we have a higher crime rate than almost any other city in the county as well, which requires a fair amount of policing. And Oxnard actually has fewer policemen per capita than comparable size or larger size cities. So we have a lot of budget priorities. So Bert advocated some belt tightening and prioritization measures, including having each city department submit a plan of a scenario for a 5 or 10 or 15% reduction in budget if that's necessary, and have that available for Greg Nyhoff to be implemented if necessary, if we're really in crash mode in the budget this year. So I don't think that big higher taxes are in the picture.
Usually
We get to figure out how to spend the money more wisely. He also cautioned us not to make the March 5th community forum a wish list meeting, to make it very clear to the attendees that we have limited resources and we're not going to be able to give everyone everything they want. So we have to do a really good job deciding on what we really want to do with rifle shot precision. What are the priorities that we're going to work on this year? Very important. And he also mentioned that we are in violation of all good accounting recommendations as far as the size of the general fund reserve, which should be 18 million, and is considerably below that, and it's going to be a lot lower than that the way things are going this year, which puts us in danger. Municipal financial experts say there should be about a 2-month reserve, which comes to 18 million or $108 million general fund level, right? He also cautions us to do a review of Measure O, utilities funds, workers' compensation funds, and other funds that might be in jeopardy, including especially the successor agency, which was formed when redevelopment agencies were outlawed by the state a few years ago, and which we're trying to work out and have about $130 million liability for. He also wants to see what our plan is for paying off the city's debt as well. And he'd like that done with a budget that has no gimmicks, no smoke and mirrors. That's an exact quote from his letter.
Interesting.
That letter will be published in Citizen Journal as soon as we get a digital version, because I don't want to retype it myself. It's very long. So that kind of wraps up what we're doing financially right now. Any other questions?
No, it's just more statements. When the city manager puts something out there, I mean, I think people should listen and attend and engage. And, so I really think that that's going to be a great event. And if you care about Oxnard, it's something
I would agree too. And by the way, these sentiments are not just Bert Perillo's. Every single member of the council weighed in very strongly in favor of what he said last night, and there was certainly no argument from Greg Nyhoff or Dave Milliken either.
I want to mention that if you go to KEDY TV, Greg Nyhoff's interview is on the front page, I believe, still. So if you get a chance to actually see Greg Knopf talk about it?
Right, that's also on Citizens Journal, link back to KADY TV. And we have another segment coming up right after this where we'll discuss other things that have happened in the city in the last week or so.
That's very good. And just in wrapping up, I hope you'll take the time to look at citizensjournalus.com and .us and peruse it, because something will catch your eye. Read it like a newspaper. You look through it, and those things that which you're interested in, take a look at it. So this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with KADY, with my mentor, my hero, George Miller. Until next time.